I'm Shannon Martin tonight with a strike deadline looming. Once again, more uncertainty for parents and students across the province.
This is my passion, but my passion now cannot pay my mortgage, and that's the problem.
Well, the union and province try to hammer out a deal ahead of Sunday's 5 p.m. strike deadline. Education workers and their supporters rally across Ontario. And
we see that despite the violent crackdowns that are going on in Iran, people are still defiant. They're still coming out.
Rallies around the world in support of protesters in Iran. We'll take you to Richmond Hill, where thousands gathered in the cold. They say these widespread, sustained demonstrations are making a difference.
We're asking for essential travel only.
It's the first big wallop of wintry weather, with lake-effect snow moving from Buffalo into parts of Ontario.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Hello, thanks for joining us. Another weekend and more uncertainty for parents and what's happening with the kids and school come Monday morning. The union representing education workers say they'll remain at the table well into the evening tonight, but if no deal is reached with the province by 5 p.m. tomorrow, workers say they'll walk off the job again. Meg Roberts with our top story.
I believe that we will win! I believe that we will win!
While the union representing education workers and the Ontario government hashed it out at the bargaining table today, dozens of protesters took to the streets.
I'm very frustrated. I'm very angry at the way our government presents the issues in the media, but I'm so happy to see that people are fighting back. I'm very grateful for that.
Pressure mounted earlier this month when the government introduced legislation to force a contract on workers and prevent a strike. But the province backed down, and now both sides are negotiating.
I think that the Ministry of Education and the government underestimated our members. They assumed that low-paid women workers wouldn't stand up and fight for themselves.
Women like Cecilia Barreto, she takes care of 13 students with high needs as an education assistant.
I don't know why why they hate us so much. I don't understand. If we do this work, that is so important. We work with the most vulnerable students in the schools. That's what we do for a living every day.
The Ministry of Education saying Friday that it's disappointed students may be out of school again next week. It said it will remain at the table and ready to land a fair deal. Solidarity! CUPE says both sides have agreed to a $1 per hour raise each year, but the union is still fighting for higher staffing levels.
I have 2 hands, 13 students. I cannot explain to you how unfair this is. I invite Leche and I invite 4 to come to my life in school for 1 day, and then they can have those opinions.
Several school boards across the province have said learning will move online next week in the event of a strike. The ministry says it will provide eligible healthcare workers and long-term care staff access to free care for elementary school children. Both sides have until tomorrow at 5 p.m. to come to an agreement. Meg Roberts, CBC News, Toronto.
To another day of action now, this time right around the world in support of protesters in Iran. For weeks now, there's been sustained and widespread demonstrations. Ithil Musa takes us to a rally in Richmond Hill where people say their voices and ongoing protests are making a difference.
In cities across Canada and around the world, people gathered to commemorate what many in Iran call Bloody November. A month in 2019 when hundreds of people were killed by Iran's security forces after people took to the streets to protest a sudden increase in fuel prices. Today's action coincides with ongoing demonstrations in Iran, calling for justice in the case of Mahsa Amini. The 22-year-old died in police custody in September after being detained by Iran's so-called morality police for allegedly wearing her hijab improperly. According to one human rights group, nearly 350 people have been killed and more than 15,000 people detained.
Despite the violent crackdowns that are going on in Iran, people are still defiant. They're still coming out. They want nothing short of a revolution.
But protesters here are also calling for justice for the victims of Flight PS 752. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard shot down the Ukraine International Airlines flight shortly after takeoff in Tehran in January 2020, killing all 176 passengers and crew members on board.
Women have not given up. They are doing amazing. And we also have, as Canadians, PS 752, the tragic flight that killed innocent people. Those people are also with us.
It doesn't matter if we are in Europe, it doesn't matter if we are in Iran. Everybody, we are together to get rid of this brutal regime.
The Association of Families of Flight PS 752 says it wants international organizations and courts to declare the deaths of November 2019 as crimes against humanity and to initiate formal investigations into those incidents. It also wants the UN Human Rights Council to investigate the recent crackdown of protesters in Iran at the hands of the regime. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
In health news tonight, a hospital stay in Ontario will cost some patients $400 a day starting tomorrow. A controversial new law means patients waiting for a long-term care spot can be moved to a facility up to 150 kilometers away from home if they refuse. The province has mandated hospitals to charge them. As Tyler Cheese shows us, critics are mounting a fight.
Healthcare advocates say the province's More Beds, Better Care Act ignores the rights of hospital patients, many of whom are elderly.
We have taken the right of frail elderly people to consent, and we have taken the right to keep their personal health information personal.
Now, critics are preparing a charter challenge against the new law to be launched Monday morning. First passed at the end of August, the act means patients who no longer require acute care in southern Ontario can be moved up to 70 kilometers away. Those in northern Ontario may be moved up to 150 kilometers away. Though the province has said every effort will be made to keep patients as close to home as possible, for many patients, this will mean living with little to no support from loved ones.
Things get missed because, family and friends who can't visit are, the ones that often notice things because they know the person well. And this is going to be very disastrous. People will die because of this.
As of tomorrow, if a patient refuses, the hospital will have no choice but to start charging them $400 a day. The province says any move would be temporary and that patients will be able to move again when a space opens in their preferred home, but critics say that's not likely to happen.
They are prioritizing hospital patients, and they will continue to do so. You're going to continually get bumped by those people who are in hospital that want out.
Those working in hospitals say the law will have many negative impacts.
I think it's actually going to poison relationships between hospital providers and patients and their families.
He also says patients shouldn't be at fault for a failing healthcare system.
Blaming them for that situation and actually fining them for not actually going to an option that they don't want, how is that actually a better solution than actually just investing more in the more inexpensive forms of care that would allow people to go where they want to go in the first place?
The province did not respond to a request for comment in time for this broadcast. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
Meantime, a group of people in Toronto putting on a big show of support for healthcare workers.
We are concerned about the state of healthcare. We feel it's in crisis, and about our healthcare workers. And we're here to support them, and we're asking all Ontarians to speak out to support them.
You're looking at the Ghost Gurney. Organizers say it's a symbol of Ontario's crumbling healthcare system. They're calling on the Ford government to invest in a universal healthcare system and to stop privatization. Peel Police and a Mississauga auto shop are partnering up to deter thieves. They're making minor modifications to vehicles after seeing a spike of catalytic converters being stolen.
We have etched in on the catalytic converter their 8 digits of their VIN number to identify this vehicle. So if they do remove it and it goes anywhere, it'd be identifiable to us.
Say in the last year through COVID, it's becoming more major. When times get tough, people find ways to make money.
Bertoli adds converters are being targeted because they're made of valuable metals and are being sold for up to $800. Police are marking the parts with spray paint as well. They say it signals to scrap metal buyers that the part is stolen. The project continues tomorrow for any drivers who want to take part. In Brampton, a 17-year-old is facing attempted murder charges after a shooting in a school parking lot. Police say they arrested the suspect but are no longer identifying him because of his age. The shooting happened on Friday just after noon in the back parking lot of Castlebrook Secondary School. An 18-year-old student was taken to hospital by his friend. There's no update tonight on his condition. In Hamilton, a 2-year-old child is in critical condition and an adult was seriously injured last night in a house fire. The toddler was among 10 children aged 2 to 17 and 4 adults, including a firefighter, who were all taken to hospital for smoke inhalation. The Ontario Fire Marshal's office is now investigating. Sheridan College says it closed its Oakville campus today due to a safety concern in the area identified by Halton Regional Police. The college announced it was canceling all classes and events, evacuating all of its buildings. Earlier in the day, Sheridan campuses were hosting open house events for future students. Now, we reached out to police for information, but officers said they do not have information on the incident. Turning to the weather next, you've likely seen the pictures from that big storm that swept through western New York State. It dumped 2 meters of snow and is far from over. Katie Nicholson spent the day in the thick of it.
Well, here's the scene in downtown Buffalo today. They said that that band was going to move across the city, and boy, did it ever. You can see about 1 to 2 feet of snow down in the downtown area, a lot of it sort of piling on top of cars. And this is what you have, a lot of cars socked right in. You can see the windshield wipers actually jetting out of the snow in a couple of places here, people trying to be proactive and get ahead of what they knew was going to be a messy cleanup. Do their best to preserve those wipers. The National Guard has been activated. Now, they're not coming here to Buffalo. They're actually going south to the townships that were hardest hit by that band that just sat there over 36 hours. What we know is the band is going to shift back down here to Buffalo from Niagara Falls. It is then going to push back down to those townships a little bit later. What we also know, numerous cars were trapped overnight along the highways and roads, including tractor trailers. There has been a warming center opened here, actually 3 warming centers in Buffalo. Another warming center was set up in Evans Hall, that's in one of the southern townships. That had about 40 people go in overnight seeking shelter, hundreds without power across the county as this lake effect storm continues to grind into another day. It's projected to keep going well into Sunday. The other thing that's really happened today is the winds have picked up here in the Buffalo area and the temperatures have dropped. That's really impeded visibility. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Buffalo.
And we want to show you this video now from just a few hours ago, posted by Niagara OPP. Severe winter weather conditions in the region. Some areas there's near zero visibility due to blowing snow. The OPP asking people to avoid the highways and only head out for essential travel. Well, let's bring in Kevin McKay now. You've been tracking this all day, and when you see video like that, yeah, you want to stay inside for sure.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky in the GTA. We've avoided it for the most part over the last couple of days, but Sunday's going to be a different story. This is what we've been dealing with on Saturday. Here's a look at our satellite. Across Erie and Lake Ontario, it's that southwest wind back across Michigan and Wisconsin. It's already into that south or northwest flow, and that's what's going to be coming for our Sunday. So here's our additional snowfall that we're going to, this is our total snowfall. We've already seen those deeper blues. We've had reports of 170 centimeters already, and it's not done. Our big question is going to be Sunday afternoon. As the squalls start to shift, how much of the GTA is going to be impacted? The further north and further east you go, the better chance of the greater impact, and that's going to continue through the evening before the wind shift back to the west, and the attention will go back up towards cottage country and Buffalo once again. So our additional snowfall, you're just looking down around Niagara, maybe another 10 centimeters, but the big focus is going to be around Barrie, Orillia, Lindsay, even down towards Cobourg for our Sunday, and it'll be improving by Monday morning.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. We'll check in with you again. After a turbulent few years, the federal Green Party is hoping to turn a new page tonight. They've been looking for a new leader ever since the last federal election, when former leader Annamie Paul failed to win her seat. David Thurton takes a look at those vying for the top spot.
This is a race featuring 6 candidates with different and similar visions for the Greens. Some candidates promise boosting fundraising, which has dropped fixing federal council, the seat of governance, but also infighting. Others are proposing co-leadership eventually. Anna Keenan and Chad Walcott are among the pairs doing that, along with Jonathan Pedneau and Elizabeth May. May, a former leader and sitting MP, is the most recognized candidate. She and her running mate also have raised the most money. When the leadership contest began 2 months ago, the party had hoped it had turned a new leaf. Instead, what happened was all too familiar. At a launch party, their interim leader, who uses the pronouns they, he, was misgendered.
I just want to give you my heartfelt apology.
Soon after, their first Indigenous president resigned, saying she felt maligned and attacked by candidates. Whoever's elected must rebuild the Greens, a party considered by some Canada's saviors from climate destruction, now in a position where the party needs saving themselves. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
To the COP27 climate conference next, which was actually slated to wrap up yesterday. Today's draft was updated but did not mention any phasing down of fossil fuels in general. Climate activists are hoping for more changes before a final text is ratified. A deal to compensate countries hit hardest by climate disasters could be in sight, although funding for that is still being negotiated. It is Grey Cup weekend, and you know the big party is already underway in Regina. The Toronto Argos taking on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers tomorrow in the CFL Championship. As Sam Sampson shows us, the league is trying to grow its fan base and footprint.
The CFL is focusing on athletics from the gridiron to the gaming console. This is the digital zone, so we've got some gaming going on here. There's virtual reality as well. There's also an esports tournament happening through Grey Cup week, and it's all part of the CFL trying to bring in a wider fan base, which is important if the league wants to expand, because right now it's not all coast to coast. It goes from BC until Montreal. Commissioner Randy Ambrosi says they do want to expand. It is a priority, but there's no timeline for it quite yet. Now, there was possible funding to maybe expand the league before COVID, but the pandemic put a stop to that. Ambrosi says that it is a priority, and there are benefits to expanding the league to 10 teams, including maybe a warmer Grey Cup.
When we land our 10th team, then we can play our regular season in 19 weeks. So this year's Grey Cup, for example, would have been on November the 6th. And so, Dave, that's our focus right now.
The CFL really does have a wide reach across this country. We've met a ton of fans from all different teams across Canada, many of whom are hoping for an Atlantic team, especially ones from the Maritimes.
True Regina fan.
This is what Bob Frazen had to say about a possible Atlantic team. He's visiting Regina from Oshawa, but he was born in New Glasgow, and he's a Red Blacks fan.
To see that, like the balance in the league, to see some sort of harmony come across, and there'd be absolutely, I think you'd get that coast-to-coast support. You could see much more rivalries come out of it. You could see a lot more of a fan base that come out of that, and really reach out to different generations for the CFL. East Coast being huge community-based is one of those things that you would see, like I said, the younger generation, the families come in there.
For now, everyone here is focused on Sunday's game. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers facing off against the Toronto Argonauts here in the Queen City. Toronto hasn't won a Grey Cup since 2017, and Winnipeg is looking for its 3rd Grey Cup win in a row. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Regina.
Okay, so we're due, right? We can do it. Well, in Brampton, the Santa Claus Parade is making its way through the city and bringing the holiday spirit. It is a cold one out there, but that didn't stop people from getting in a peek of Santa. There were snowmen and reindeer on the parade floats, a marching band too, playing some of the classic holiday tunes, and plenty of decor to brighten up the night. And tomorrow, Toronto Santa Claus Parade is back on in person after 2 years of being a TV-only event. Thousands of people will line the streets to see the Jolly Man in Red. This year includes a number of new floats that have never been seen before, including an Indigenous float. There will also be dancers from the Ontario School of Ballet. The parade gets started at 12:30 on Christie and Bloor through Bloor University and finishes at the St. Lawrence Market. Okay, Kevin, if there's one thing we can say about the weather, it's festive for the return of all these events back in person.
Yeah, it'll be perfect if we can get this squall to hit Toronto right in time for the parade. And we might just do that. We're having our wind shift for Sunday afternoon. We are going to be looking at the north side of the GTA is going to be getting it the worst. Barrie, Aurelia, Beaverton, and over towards Cobourg, Oshawa. But Toronto, you'll have a flurry move on through, only about a centimeter or two. So if you are going north of the city, that's the big danger area, the whiteouts, the drifting snow, the blowing snow. If you're going up to 400, I just wouldn't do it on Sunday. Monday will be a much better day. Now looking ahead at the work week to come, there's our snow moving on out. It's actually been pretty quiet over the last couple of weeks, and we can thank the West Coast for that. All that high pressure is basically turned off the storm track, but that is going to change through the middle of this week. We are going to see our temperatures start to rebound towards the end of the week, going above seasonal. We should only be about 5 right now. We could be seeing 7, maybe even 8 degrees, but that's going to be coming at a price. That is all thanks to a low that's going to be forming in the prairies. You see that red start to deepen. As that low deepens, it's going to be pulling up more warmth ahead of it. But the warmth at this time of year, it will be coming with some precipitation on the backside. So there's that clipper coming on in. It's going to be arriving as rain for southern Ontario, but it's also going to be running into a lot of that Pacific moisture on the south side. So we're going to have a wet end to the week, but it's going to be a little warm as well. So very different from this week, and that snow might become a thing of the past.
Okay, thanks so much, Kevin.
Thank you.
Well, that's our show for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Chris Glover is back with you tomorrow night at 11. We'll see you soon.